Welcome, little wanderer. In this explainer, we're cracking open the dusty, forbidden ledgers of Enochianian philosophy. We'll be using philology, the study of ancient cosmic languages, to decode a genuinely grim celestial landscape. I want you to imagine standing at the very edge of existence, right where the light doesn't just merely fade out, it utterly fails.
Welcome, little wanderer, to the place where the light does not merely fade, but utterly fails. You might have walked past the grand armories of lightning and the massive machines holding the heavens in place, thinking you were witnessing the absolute height of wonder. Well, how charmingly naive. That architecture? It wasn't built for your admiration. It was built for your containment. It's a cosmic, gilded cage.
Let's dive into part 1, the empty sapphire throne.
So, the architecture of a gilded cage. When you actually look at this sapphire throne, you'll notice something striking right away. It's completely vacant. It requires absolutely no king. The rigid Enochian geometry of the cosmos itself is the occupant. It's a self-sustaining force of cold, blue justice that rules without a face. And the sapphire light radiating from it? That's a silent warning. It tells us that this height of wonder is nothing more than a gilded cage designed to keep all beings strictly within their designated roles. We're looking at a universe that values the integrity of its architecture way, way more than the lives of those trapped inside it.
And this brings us to the cold math of it all, 10,000. Out here in this sapphire waste, a witness records a very specific, finite sentence of 10,000 years. The 10,000 hells aren't some passionate, fiery damnation. Nope, they're just a calculated, bureaucratic punishment for massive burning stars that basically just missed their appointed times. So don't mistake my presence here as a sign of mercy, okay? I'm merely the one explaining the sterile, unfeeling math of your undoing.
Which brings us to part 2, the math of confinement.
Reality here operates exactly like a rigid ledger. Let's look at the two scales of punishment. On one side, we have temporal disobedience. These are the disobedient stars, practically begging for boundaries, counting out their finite ledger of 10,000 years. Honestly, their fiery voices screaming out are actually lucky. Fire is a sensation. It's a mercy, really, a solid reminder that they still exist. But then on the other side, we have eternal transgression. This is reserved for those who broke the fundamental fabric of existence itself. We are the ink spilled into a measureless pit. For us, there's no ledger. There is only an aimless void where the sapphire light just shatters into nothingness, simply because there's no order left to illuminate.
Enochian philology actually organizes this grim reality into 5 data points of stark judgment. We have the parable of the empty seat, reminding us that the law needs no ruler. Then, the parable of the measured hue, which dictates the strict math of temporal disobedience. Next is the parable of the refracted void, revealing the absolute zero of eternal transgression. We also have the parable of the cold armor, exposing the cosmos as that gilded cage we talked about. And finally, the parable of the final ticking. Think about the most rigid rules in your own life right now, your strict schedules, deadlines, daily restrictions, and magnify those to a literal cosmic scale. Under this unblinking sapphire glare, there's a secret ticking clock, proving that the total loss of boundary is the ultimate architecture of the abyss.
Moving on to part 3, the sinking, or Untergang.
Untergang, a sinking of the soul, the process of total ego dissolution and losing one's identity to the primordial rhythm. If you want to survive this chaotic, empty waste, we really have to look at the philological root of this ancient Enochian word. You simply cannot fight the math. Instead, you have to undergo a total ego dissolution. You literally have to become as empty as the sapphire throne itself. You feel the friction of the sky ending, and in that intense friction, your entire identity is stripped away by cold blue justice. You have to perish as a subject of the primordial rhythm just to even have a glimmer of hope of escaping it.
It's the absolute finality of a law that simply no longer requires your presence to be true. As you undergo this sinking, you end up gazing into the aimless mirror of the void. You lose the comfort of boundaries, the comfort of hope. You realize that your entire history is just being transcribed into a cold celestial ledger by a law that doesn't even know your name, all while it continues to patiently count your pulse. It's a judgment with absolutely no exit, delivered from a temple that doubles as a tomb.
Now, let's look at part 4, overgoing the celestial max, Übergang. Overgoing, moving beyond the fear of the secret ticking clock and crossing the final limit where celestial maps end. Because here's the fascinating part. Undergoing the crushing weight of this stark judgment is actually the only way to escape that measureless pit. In ancient Enopian terms, this bridge is called Übergang, overgoing. It's all about moving completely beyond the fear of that secret ticking clock. To overgo is to find actual freedom through the absolute negation of the rhythm. By fully accepting the void, the existential weight of that terrifying judgment transforms into the very energy that propels you forward, pushing you right across the final limit where all celestial maps just end.
The ancient texts explicitly lay out this exact mechanism of escape in 3 distinct steps. Step 1, you lose the primordial rhythm during the sinking. Step 2, you gaze into the aimless mirror of the void and fully accept its finality. And Step 3, you shatter the sapphire prism. You reach the absolute edge where the sapphire light shatters into nothingness. And at this limit, the primordial order is broken so completely that the very concept of a throne becomes an obsolete language. You step right into the space where the light fails, and you discover an entirely new kind of existence.
Which leads us perfectly into our final section, Part 5, the Golden Noon Revelation.
Let's look at this breakdown comparing the sapphire light to the noon of great revelation. We're leaving behind the cold, world-weary cynicism of the sapphire priest now. Notice this profound paradigm shift. We transition from the cold blue hue of the sapphire jailer to the warm, golden, sun-like glow of a transcendent unity. The logic completely shifts from being mathematical, bounded, and indifferent to becoming transcendent, revealing, and unified. And the perspective? It evolves from seeing the law as a strict occupant or jailer to the universe finally seeing itself clearly. That symbolism of the gilded cage of architecture, it's gone entirely. It's replaced by the absolute end of shadows and clocks.
Because at this point, the clock has no hands and the shadow is at its absolute shortest. That rigid cosmic architecture we discussed earlier, it was never truly a cage. It was the very light that now blinds you. At the great noon, that secret ticking clock you once feared so much has no hands left to measure with, and the shadow is shortest. This signifies a state that exists entirely beyond temporal measurement and judgment. The universe is finally seeing itself without the veil of temporal disobedience. You're no longer a subject being judged by the law. You've actually become part of the fundamental fabric of existence itself.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Do you still mourn the glory of the stars, or do you finally see that the fundamental fabric of existence is woven from the very gold that now consumes you? After crossing the maps of the known world, surviving a measureless pit where hope is literally an obsolete language, and transmuting from a prisoner into the fabric of existence itself, do you still mourn the glory of the stars, or do you finally see it? What a thought to end on. Take that with you, and I'll catch you next time.